City?
You know, one of the things that I always find particularly interesting is how it is we are able as a country to trivialize the most important things. Now, any nation on this earth has the one asset, the one valuable commodity, the one valuable product that requires protection more than any other. It's called the generation. And that is represented by children, young people. Because in the absence of many of these young people, then the generation that is supposed to come next, well, you've as good as extinguished it. People get old, the normal cycle of life, they leave this planet and other people take over. So one would assume that the focal point of anyone who is in leadership or any government that is in leadership is that this future generation is protected more than anything else that we speak of. But when we look at the manner in which our education system is being managed as we currently speak, and the many confusions that we have within it, and the debates that we have within it, and the priorities that are given beyond the debate to actualize the very thing that would benefit these young learners, I have difficulties claiming that indeed we are taking care of the most valuable asset we have in this nation. I would say we're treating that asset carelessly, callously, and we are depriving the nation of the benefit of what these generations can actually contribute to it.
So what you're saying is we should stop what we're doing and sort this one out as an emergency.
We should stop talking. If there is talk, it should be what the timetable with which we want to implement certain things and the things we want to do. The CBC discussion began with the previous government. We heard of fantastic desks. We heard of new classrooms. We heard of taking work to the community so that all these projects could also benefit. We heard. We even got reports of certain achievements. But I have not seen any report that tells me that all these schemes and the money that was allocated, that we have 100% success rate of what was intended. Now, all these were supposed to be in preparation for what we've been debating since this year began, towards the end of last year and this year, the rollout of the CBC and how it is these new entrants into this new system were going to be accommodated. That was the purpose. A task force is set. Task forces in this country are always that task force. They are always set to try and tease out the information that is needed, get public participation. And then once the public participation has been concluded, the data has been analyzed, and we get to a point where we understand the way forward. All right, this bit about the implementation, it somehow always eludes us. Always. And yet with every passing year, the amount that we spend on education is the hugest budget item in the nation's budget, the hugest. Are we getting that value for this money? Because this money is supposed to be spent on the children and their learning processes.
The sentiment has been preferred that this is old news. That, we've talked about it, we understand. See, we'll get by. See, eventually, the TSC will hire teachers. The books that are supposed to be on their way, see, they will reach. We'll be in midterm in 3 weeks. See, they'll read. So the sentiment is that, you guys, okay, talked about it, is enough now, we've heard. Okay, so there's bumps along the way. It will be done, it will be sorted, they'll go to school. What do you think about that?
If you look at the nations we like admiring, talking about, use as an examples, and we talk about their greatness, you'll find that greatness, among the contributors, the greatness is the greatness of the education system. The focus and the attention, deliberate attention that is paid to ensuring that the people who provide this education to the learners are the best that the country can have. And then the systems are student-centered, meaning they are purposed and they are deliberately engineered to ensure that the students that come out of this system are the sort of students with the qualifications and abilities that the country needs, and then they ensure that they fit into the areas that the country considers to be worthwhile. Now, when you have a wholesale approach to education, where some along the line you introduce a little witchcraft and hopeful thinking and magic thinking that this thing, essentially voodoo, that this thing will work. What do you mean it will work? These things have to be made to work. That deliberate effort has to be seen. And the deliberate effort we see is in the amount of talk about it and around it. And every time it is pointed out something is amiss, that is brushed aside and more talk comes in. Every time an issue that requires rectifying is talked about, a lot of talk, then the issue suddenly brushed aside, another issue comes up. Now surely, is this how you lay down a foundation of ensuring that this country goes beyond this particular decade and that we actually guarantee that the people in whose hands this country will be left in were given the opportunity to bring out the best that they possibly can? Is this what we're doing?
You know, this issue of the transition, by the way, it raises very many questions. We now seem to be focusing on, okay, so what is it that we should be doing now? Should we hire more teachers? Should we get desks? Should they have uniform? Should they be in primary school? Should they go to the nearest secondary school? Should they go to the nearest primary school because their previous primary school was too small? It can't accommodate blah, 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 this and the other. I keep asking myself, what was the plan? Because there should have been a plan. So the initial plan, if we just go in with the building of classrooms by Magoha in the last regime, was that these kids were going to transition into secondary school. Given there was insufficient engagement with a critical stakeholder, the children and their parents. And that's why the parents were saying, surely we can't take these small children into secondary school. Okay? That is number one point of concern. But number two point of concern, were there enough teachers who would have taken these children in junior secondary school and be able to teach them? Were there enough lab facilities? Why had the conversation about them not occupying the class that is being left by the standard 7s and 8s not taken place? So it just shows you it was colors from grade 1, because these kids have risen from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the 7th year, we are. It's like we're being caught with like a deer in the headlights. We had no idea that this thing was going to come. It's like an emergency. It's like COVID. And oh my God, so now we've got to deal with what we have because, it's an emergency. The kids, let them just go to school. We are going to scramble teachers and send the teachers there. It's an emergency. It's not an emergency. The transition from 6 to 7 is not an emergency. It was planned, it was seen that this was going to happen. How are we here where we are? And if we are then here where we are, should this not be the number one conversation that we're having? It only require 3 weeks a month and we sort it. But we're not having that conversation. We're not sitting back and saying, let's stop everything else. TSC, do you have the teachers? All right. Once TSC has actually identified the teachers and given them their appointment letters, do they need any form of orientation into the CBC curriculum and what they ought to be teaching? These 13 subjects that they're teaching in grade 7, what are they? Okay, what do we have in terms of facilities for labs, for workshops? Do we need to... These are the conversations that we should be having. We should be having this working party, probably as it's continuing with its conversation there, Machogu should be sitting somewhere at KICD with stakeholders and saying, we close the doors morning to evening, come back tomorrow morning till evening, come out of there with a solution. 2 days are enough. This is what we're going to do. This is the situation on the ground. This is the plan. From Monday, we move. But we don't. We are all over the place. Now you're talking of teachers are going to be, okay, the TSC is in the process of hiring teachers. It started with the MPs that are going to identify teachers in their constituencies because of the blah, blah, blah. So TSC is having to deal with the politicians and the teachers that need to come from. Teachers are not in school. Children are in school. Children are being told, buy new uniform. Parents are wondering, buy new uniform. My God, now. So there's a whole debate now. Do we need uniform for JSS? Do we not need uniform for JSS? There's a whole debate of do we need desks for JSS? Do we not need... These are not conversations we should be having. Something is amiss.
Something is strangely
And like
strange.
you're saying, City, we are actually letting down a generation.
Yes.
And treating it so casually.
Yes.
So casually.
The system that should be the benchmark for how education should be run in the country, unfortunately, is not up to scratch. Call it what you want to call it. Say that you're hurting people's feelings, but that's just the truth of the matter. That we cannot and should not. Kenya should not have a situation whereby you don't know which direction we are going. All you know at the end of the day is, number one, there's a new curriculum. Number two, we must now have 100% transition. Number three, that curriculum then must be played out somehow. You're going to get to the bottom or top of the mountain, somehow kicking, crawling, screaming, but you will get there. And that's what I'm saying is the problem. Not with education, not with something that's going to form or forms the foundation of what you will do for the rest of your life, academically, business-wise, otherwise. You cannot have this kind of fumbling in the dark. Let's look for the light switch. Let's light a candle. You can't. You can't do that. And I think it's about time for the thinking surrounding all of this to change. To change, not amend your thinking. No, there needs to be a seismic shift in the manner of thinking about how this education is going to be applied. It cannot be. What year are we in now in the implementation of CBC? It's been going from year to year. This thing is not 2018, 2017, 7 years.
It's 7. They're
It's 7
joining
years.
this grade 7s.
Started when they were
started
coming
at
into
1.
primary school. They started at 1.
Yep.
It cannot be that in the 7th year of a new curriculum, we're still in the dark. Where's the light switch? The lights have not come on yet. We've gone from one administration to another. And we're still fumbling about. Somehow children did. They finished 1 year, went to another year, la. You want to ask if they felt the effects of a new curriculum. You want to ask if the infrastructure that was needed, and I'm not talking about physical buildings. Infrastructure also is contributed to by the wherewithal that even the implementers have. Whether it is the development program, whether it is teachers, whether it is schools, that all contributes to infrastructure. You have to think really seriously about this thing. Because it is impossible for you to ask, why then do you have a workforce in the future then that does not have the tools that they need? Why then do you have a system in the future that doesn't have the tools? What informs the other? I dare say, if you look back at your foundations, that is what you're going to be able to use to tell what's happening in the present. What did you do before? A building that falls down, look at its foundation. There are probably cracks in the foundation. And what we're saying right now is get the foundation right. Get it right. Start from, and I have this quarrel, and I still do. It vexes my spirit that you want to pay teachers who are forming the foundation of education for 3 and 4 year olds, and you want to frustrate them by paying them pittance. And then you want to ask yourself later, what happened? What do you think happened? Teachers who want to teach this CBC have no idea of the opening from the ear to the nose. The difference between those two openings, have no idea in terms of this curriculum. You want to train them on the job. You want to train them on the job.
Imagine.
Come on. You want to, because these teachers, the 35,000 of them,
It's fresh.
please note, they've not been hired. Now you want to hire them and put them in school.
They are
They
fresh.
don't know what
The last
they're
thing they
supposed to
did
be
in
teaching.
teaching practice was for 844. All right? They did not do teaching practice with the CBC curriculum. They are coming in to actually roll out a CBC curriculum for a new level of education, the junior secondary level of education. There are 13 subjects.
They know nothing. I know we can talk about adapting because, you can teach,
With
right?
time, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
we know. But in that time, what are you doing to that child? What are you doing to that child? Let's look at the difference between systems. Today, private schools, there's no question. Kaende, February 6th, they opened. They started, they were going. We are in the second week now in the public system. You want to say, 2 weeks, no problem, we will get into it. Makes a whole lot of difference in what you're able to give. That's what I'm saying. There doesn't need to be, okay, let's actually there needs to be a seismic shift in the way in which this thing is being worked on.
Yeah.
Honestly, otherwise, you'll be talking, you don't change it today, mark my words. 10 years from now, you'll still be talking about the same thing.
You know what's interesting, do? That seismic shift has actually taken place in the sense. The value of education has been degraded steadily and consistently for the longest possible
That's what
time.
the shift has taken place.
It's seismic because when you have tectonic plates doing their thing and when you have earthquakes, what happens is that something happens at the Earth's crust and there's movement. Now, the effects are buildings collapsing, rivers disappearing or coming up where they shouldn't. Now, the shift in itself is just a shift, but the consequences are calamitous. Now, that's where the problem arises. We are having this constant and consistent conversation about wanting to change, wanting to bring about, wanting. And when those who are the decision makers have this conversation, they speak about this whole issue as though it's a done thing and everything that ought to be done is in place, and it's just a question of one waking up tomorrow morning and finding it's working. But every day you wake up, it doesn't work, it hasn't worked, and it isn't working. And there really is no light at the end of this particular dark tunnel where you can definitively say that, I can see that this thing is actually working. We have a situation in this country where our population increases every year. It doesn't go down, it increases. Okay? So the demand on the education system is not going to go down. How do you expect that the very things that we think we are planning for and hoping we will do, all these activities that we get involved in, Kenyans have this magical thinking, and they even believe when they have a conversation among themselves, meaning among ourselves, that we are different from other failed third world banana republic countries on the continent. Actually, that thought, it's fanciful thinking, because if you look at where we are going, we are among those failed states. If you have a government that is not able to ensure that the future generations are taken care of primarily through an education system that works, what is this future that you're talking about exactly? And if you're talking about it, what sort of future is it going to be? The consequences are already before us, and we are seeing it unfolding, and we are allowing it to unfold. And yet, the discussions that we seem to believe ought to be the center of our discussions are things to do which individuals joined which party, which people went to State House, which ones want to kick out. I mean, come on, for heaven's sake. So, when we are talking about the importance of the education system and the actualization of the plans we've had for the CBC, we are not talking about education, we're talking about the future of this nation. And that is what is being tinkered with.
We are actually letting down an entire generation. Currently, it's 1 million. But the others below them will be joining.
Yes.
In just a few months' time, the current grade 6s will be in grade 7.
Yes.
The 5s will be in 6. Okay? And you can bet the way we are behaving, a year is not enough to regularize. So this trisex class of grade 7 are also going to be trisexing into grade 8, trisexing into grade 9, and moving into senior secondary school. These teachers that we're hiring, you'll hear, the conversation will end at this point. That 30,000 teachers, we have teachers.
What is it?
Let them continue.
So they've been hired.
This teacher, you're hearing the teachers are being deployed to a school, 4 teachers to teach the 14 subjects. You must take from science to math to English to literature to everything. The 4 of you, mujipange.
However you're going to do it, just do it.
Mujipange.
Yeah.
Whichever of you can do math, the sciences, do the sciences. The other one, do the arts. Hey.
You know what? You know what? Don't be surprised at the result. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you want to make a cake and you put eggs, flour, sugar, you get a cake. Abby, you get a cake.
Yep.
If you want a fumbled mess of something, then put cardboard, put eggs at the same time, then put some sand, you get a fumbled mess of something. Same thing here. If you want no semblance of order, priority, importance in this foundation of children that you're bringing out in a public system of education, then do whatever you want. Hire like that, pay them as you wish, pay them when you wish, start the school term halfway through, do whatever you want. In order to get a fumbled mess of something at the end of your baking process, do just that.
You will do that, and you will get the result.
So don't be surprised at the result that you get. Actually, don't be like, what happened to this generation? Why are they like this? Why did we see such results? Why did we see such that learning is not up to scratch? Well, What did you put in? What did you put in? Don't be surprised at the outcome if you cannot trace back and see the ingredients that you put into the process and how you allowed the process to stand through the cooking. So don't be surprised. Unless you want something else, then for me, I mean, it blows my mind. If you want something different at the end, do something different in the beginning.
You know, my generation, or a generation of grandfathers really, traditionally, if you look at the age at which people get married and have children, and to hear my generation talk about these youngsters, you'd think they played no part in creating these youngsters. And anything that they see and they find critical, it's like they're removed from it. This blindness of not seeing how you contributed significantly to what this outcome you're seeing. And then the blame game begins. And then the blame game over time now becomes a national culture. So that every time there is an issue, the discussion around it is to look for who to blame for this situation, but never yourself. You never see yourself as a contributing agent to this situation that you find so abhorrent. But you find that you have contributed when you're critical about it and you find fault. How on earth do you really think change is going to come about when you don't look at what it is that you can do to become part of the solution, as opposed to being part of that talk shop where all you do is say things?
You see, actually, they've tried.
Yes, yeah.
They've improved significantly.
Yes.
We are trying.
I mean, under the
was.
circumstances.
You know how it was 10 years ago.
And then, when you talk to my erstwhile honorable members of parliament, and then there's discussion, do you know what the committees do? Do you know just how much they put in? I have difficulties understanding. Are we supposed to thank people for what we pay them to do? I mean, this is the thing I really find. And then you're doing a terrible job of it. We are supposed to thank you for this terrible job that you keep doing for us. And for the huge amounts of money which we ensure you get so that you can actually do what we ask you to do, or what we elect you to do.
The results of what they're doing should be felt by impact.
Yes.
From impact, not from media reports.
Not really. It's something that we should be experiencing.
We should be experiencing something and then you're reporting about it and then you trace it back into, this is what Parliament did. This is as a result of what Parliament did. But now you can't just be saying that, you sit in committees, you do all these things, and we should report it. Because
it's like
now
saying, you know what it's like saying? It's like seeing a mango tree that's supposed to fruit. Then it fruits, and you say, yes, the mango tree has fruit. That's what it's supposed to do. It is supposed to bear this fruit by virtue of the fact that from the beginning it was a mango tree. It flowered. From the flower came the fruit. It's like saying, actually, you know what? We were expecting that it was going to give us watermelons.
If it doesn't produce mangoes as it should, it becomes firewood.
Take it out.
Yeah.
And
you plant something else that will produce the fruit you desire.
Come on. Please, can we take a break?
Let's do it. It's 28 minutes to 10. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll open the phone lines for you. 0719-012-600. Let's engage. We are meeting at Nyayo National Stadium to pray.
You are good.
To pray for the country. We're having these conversations. However, there are other things that are also just as important. And we're talking about schools opened, grade 7s reported to school, and very many grade 7s, A, are not in school, or B, those who are in school are not learning. Only a few who are in private schools that were well prepared ahead of this could actually be saying to be learning.
And only 20 counties have received books.
And only 20 counties have received books for grade 7, for JSS. You know? Eish bwana. Watoto wako shule, they are not learning. There's a message from a teacher who has actually shared with us a message. Of course, they've asked us to keep their identity hidden. They were deployed by the TSC to teach in JSS. But the school heads that they found in primary school have been forcing them to teach from grade 4. Reason? The directors of education have told the school heads, you've been having a problem with teachers.
We've brought.
Now you have teachers.
Wait. Start again. That thing you said, the first one.
New teacher. Newly deployed by the Teacher Service Commission. Deployed to a junior secondary school. Junior secondary school teacher finds school head. All right? School head is school of the entire JSS
Instead of
plus
the entire
primary.
school.
Okay. School head tells new teacher, oh, tomorrow grade 4, you are teaching math. Grade 4 tomorrow.
Well, that's normal.
Okay. That's normal.
Oh, it's very normal.
Okay.
See, you're a teacher. See, that subject is taught in the school. And you are here. We take you where there's a need. That one.
Yeah.
In
Grade
addition
4.
to the one which, by the way, other duties, normal. but please continue. Normal.
So now they're wondering, okay, now I came here to teach junior secondary, and now I'm being told to go and teach grade 4.
Yes.
You know 4?
Yes.
4 and 7.
Yes.
Hey, boss.
Eric.
Hey. Karibu aende chekechea.
Wacha nikwambie why I'm telling you this. I remember the posting I had, school called Technical High School, okay?
Technical high school.
In Mombasa, okay? Degree, literature, English language, linguistics.
Bas.
Headmaster, Mr. Hashim, looks and says, linguistics, okay.
And at
From 3 and 4, Swahili. I studied
See on the
English.
language.
English, literature,
Yeah, linguistics. Okay.
linguistics.
Okay, see.
That's English sawa.
Language
Literature
is
sawa.
It's a language.
Linguistics.
Okay,
Swahili.
Swahili. Yes.
Yeah.
So now, you read more than your students because you're supposed to teach.
That's not.
So you actually go and study the language and you read it and you understand it. When you are trained as a teacher, that training is supposed to allow you that flexibility of meeting the needs of a learner.
All right.
All right?
Right.
This thing of you didn't study Kiswahili. Did you do Kiswahili in Form 4? Yes.
And you're now a teacher. So what's the problem? Oh, no. Hey, God.
So this teacher, another teacher is basically complaining they are not trained. Same thing that as you. Now, can you imagine English, literature, linguistics? You've been taken to which high school? Technical?
High school Mombasa.
High school, Mombasa.
Yes.
Imagine if you were sent to do chemistry.
You go and study chemistry.
That's nice.
You'll be asked, did you do chemistry in Form 4? Yes. Okay. So,
Where's
can you
the
study?
problem?
You study the thing, you have the skill to teach. Go and teach.
Hey, God.
Though the truth is, if you studied liberal arts, they were not going to give you chances to teach. But should they, you simply go and
This
read.
one is complaining,
complaining
they are
that
being
women
forced
bear
to
keep
teach
on bad.
I'm
math
trying to
and
explain
sciences,
to this-
and they were not trained to teach math and sciences.
No, you are trained to teach. There are subjects that you study, but it's a question of, it's called task shifting. You take the skills onto this subject. That is all I'm saying.
Trained to teach high schoolers.
You are trained to teach. Primarily, you're trained to teach. Then you're trained to teach high schoolers. That skill can be used. It's a skill.
Okay.
It requires flexibility.
Okay.
Yes.
But you see, that should also come at some point down the road. Not the first moment when you're deployed and you land there. And
Shock
the
on
first
you.
thing is, all right, so there's a JSS classroom here that needs attention. But also, before you even get into the attention of the JSS, you're being told, start with grade
The
4.
example I was giving you, did you hear me say that I'd been to another school where I was inducted into teaching Kiswahili first? No. I had left university, bwana. It's not as though I'd been teaching somewhere and I was posted. That's where I got to. Okay?
And what was the reason?
See, they need a Kiswahili teacher.
Okay. And they had a surplus of English teachers.
No, there's a guy called Mr. Wala who was teaching English, and they figured you continue teaching English.
So we already have Wala who's teaching English.
Now,
and his burden is not
And
so
by
much.
the way, don't think I was exempted from teaching English. I was still teaching English. But I was always teaching Kiswahili. And I was always teaching literature.
Was there another Swahili teacher?
I think, yes, there was. There were two of us.
Oh, so the problem was there had been only one Swahili teacher.
Yes.
And
there was also one English teacher of
teacher.
English. No, there were two actually. And but they needed a third one.
So you've come in and
so
you're
I came in.
You're the
And
libero, like in
yes,
volleyball.
So I reduced the burden.
Now, CT,
Yes, please.
you see the way you are like this.
As opposed to being
Like
what
that.
You see the trauma you have.
Oh, I see. I've been psychoanalyzed. And a traumatized person is now speaking.
You You've never forgotten even the names of the other teachers who are teaching Swahili.
See, I know them.
And the name of the head
I
master.
know all of them.
Why do you think that was? You see, because you went through a situation. You now imagine you as you are put together, you were able to handle it, but you still have that traumatic experience, right?
It's not traumatic.
It's traumatic, City. Now imagine somebody has been taken and literally thrown into the wilderness and said, "Go."
What are you suggesting?
What effect?
Technical high school was the wilderness.
What effect? No, I'm saying now. Imagine somebody today thrown.
Are you aware?
Wilderness is imagery
are
here.
you aware that
It's
the
imagery.
CEO
We're using
of the
imagery.
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in this country went
Went
to
to
technical
techni-
high
No,
school?
CT.
Are you aware?
Wait, Titi, follow the imagery. The imagery here is that basically thrown into an unknown place. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, so stop being difficult. The thing here is, now imagine you who now took a responsibility to say, I'm going to confer this knowledge to my students. That I went and read. How many others will do that? Others will just say, they said I should come and teach something that I don't know. Okay, we will come to class tomorrow.
May I suggest that they choose another career then?
Now, how many of them will do that as opposed to saying, they said I should teach. Here we are, class from 10 to 10:40. We do whatever we need to do. We finish, we go. We write the exam. You pass, you don't pass. Oh, that's not my problem. They said I should teach. I have taught. How many children are resigned to the fate of somebody's frustrations? And that is my problem.
Imagine. Let's go to the phone lines. Simon in Mombasa. Hello.
Oh, hello. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Okay, I'm calling from Kilifi. I'm a student from Pan University.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a problem in our education system, not only this CBC. I think I have friends who are doing a Bachelor of Education Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we agree is that they think that this CBC was brought to be a solution to the 844 menace that was there. And the point is, like, nowadays you find that a diploma inakuwa considered more than a degree course. So you find like employers prefer like to hire people who have a diploma rather than a degree. So like there is a disparity between how do you consider a diploma than a degree?
You understand what he's saying?
I understand what he thinks. I don't see where the problem is.
Where is the problem, Simon?
The people who are doing degrees like I think we are supposed, we're in the job market, like we are supposed to like have that be considered better than these people with a diploma. That's my point.
You know, it's strange though that in this country there's this thinking that if somebody has a diploma, one has an inferior qualification to the person who has it. Because that's really the discussion here. And no, I don't think so. You see, before the subject that we refer to as education, a degree in education existed, people would do a Bachelor of Education, a Bachelor of Arts, and then do a diploma in education, meaning that diploma is what conferred on you the professional qualifications you required
to teach.
Yes, exactly. That's what it did. So it cannot possibly be inferior if you look at it from that point of view. And the training of diploma students was diploma students, yes, was geared towards ensuring that you provided a course in which somebody who wanted to teach could actually be trained as a teacher. Now, the way I got confused was it took 3 years in a time when I was also training. The same 3 years that somebody with a degree took. So you asked,
What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. Because when they're teaching, I don't think you're going to tell the difference that this person actually had a diploma. For instance, many science teachers went to Kenya Science. It didn't offer degree courses. It offered diploma courses. Now, the students did just as well as those who had done a Bachelor of Education in Science. So I personally do not see why it was that difference existed. And if it was a question of the units that one was taught, so why did one take 3 years and the other also took 3 years? Why? It's something I personally could never understand. And yet, the competency of the teachers were the same. There are those who also argue that when you got a diploma of education, it didn't give you the latitude to be able to move into other careers beyond teaching. And yet they argued that those who had gotten a degree in education had more latitude. Again, I didn't understand that thinking. But it's this same thinking in my mind, we have with the training, I'm looking for it and it's lost. The training for nursery school, preschoolers.
Yes.
ECD.
Yes, ECD has. I think there's something wrong with that whole configuration, because anyone who is being taught at that particular age is the one who needs the best attention you could possibly give a student or a child, because that's foundational. And yet it isn't handled in that way. It's handled as though these are people who should be part-time teachers and people who are considered when everybody else has been considered.
Yep.
Now, that to me is very lopsided. The great attention should be at that level.
At that level.
The foundational level, yes. So again, I can't really help this gentleman. I can only add to his confusion, because I myself am also confused.
Jose Maria in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. I joined late, but I was intrigued by your last caller, and he asked a very interesting question. And I wanted to comment on it because I am in human resource myself, and I am a talent advisor myself currently where I work. And it is indeed we do hire diploma graduates in certain roles and consider them more than we do degree roles, and this mainly in the STEM area. And to answer his question, this is why I called in actually just to answer that question, why we consider them more for technical and STEM areas over degrees, is because they are more practical, they are more hands-on. And the one thing that I would like most of graduates and people in, students who are in university to understand, or in colleges, is that no employer hires you for what you know. Employers hire you for what you can do. So we don't hire people because they went to school and got a degree and they have a very fancy one. And no, I will look at a CV and look at, does it tell me you can do something? And if it tells me you can do what I'm looking for, then I'm going to hire you. In many cases, irrespective of whatever degree you have. So the reason why, if I am hiring for an engineer, for example, and I have worked in an organization where I used to hire, technical maintenance guys, if I am looking for an electrical technician, I'm not going to get a guy with a degree in, electrical or lights or something. I'm going to get a guy who has a diploma in that field, because the study of a diploma is more practical, is more hands-on, as opposed to a degree which is a bit more theoretical and a lot of information. So a person coming from university after 4 years, they will need time. They will probably actually need to go and study with, do some practicals with guys who done diplomas in the field, for them to actually get a hands-on experience.
Has that changed? Because we can't run away from the reality for a lot of folks that they did a diploma when they couldn't do a degree. So I'm hearing you say this has changed now, that you're actually saying a diploma would be specialized. Whereas before it was cheaper, it was shorter, and people used it as an option or an alternative because of inability to get a degree.
No, I think. Let me clarify what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I am trying to answer the question the gentleman asked. Why do we consider a diploma better in terms of when you're hiring for technical roles than a degree? I'm not saying that has, I don't want to comment on the change yet, but the answer is a diploma. Someone who has gone to school to study a diploma, the way a diploma, and I don't know if I'm using the right word, is the process of studying a diploma is a bit more hands-on, it's a bit more practical, which makes it better for the employer, because we want to have someone who can do, not someone who knows. Let me give my own example. I went to school in 2009 and did a degree in physics. the college theoretical physics or whatever it is. And yet today, I am a talent development advisor for an organization called MEDEA, that's doing humanitarian work. I have been in the HR space since 2014. Yes, I still, you find me, pursuing, because I love physics, pursuing, studies around it. But there is hardly anywhere I could go and get employed because I studied physics, other than probably being a teacher. And if I would still have to go and study teaching for me to be employed as a teacher, as a qualified teacher, as opposed to an untrained teacher. But why do I get jobs in HR? Because my CV since 2014 shows I have done this in the space. So that's what I'm trying to communicate. That the reason you get a job is not because you know something. You will get a job because you can do something. Because no employer wants you to go and sit down and tell them about the theories of whatever it is that you study in school, or the theories of HR or theories of leadership. They want you to go and design a leadership program, for example, that actually makes that happen. No one wants you, if you're hiring a technical guy, to come and tell you how electricity works. They want you to come and connect it and switch it on, and it is on, and it stays on. That's the conversation the distinction I'm trying to create. That knowledge acquisition is not knowledge application. And that's the thing that when I speak to young people, I tell them, when you're in school, don't just study. Go out there and make sure when you're on long holiday, do something with your hands. One example I could give you. I went to do a master's in renewable energy. One of my units was solar. And while I was in class, I realized during my master's that I'm still getting the same theory that I would have gotten in my undergraduate. What did I do? I went to Strathmore for a solar professional course for a week. And I learned more in that week connecting the cables and connecting the panels and the batteries and the inverters and so on than I did in a whole master's class, because it's a lot of calculation and theory, and no one will give me a job for that. But by going to that professional course for 1 week in Strathmore, I interacted with the panels. I connected, I tested, I tried, I saw it work. And I kept practicing, and that is what gave me an edge in being able to go in someone's house, size for them as a power need, and tell them this is what you need, this is how I can do it for you, and so on. What I'm trying to say is, diploma, and to your question whether it has changed or not, I hope it does change. I hope we can move the conversation from too much information, too much theory, to allowing kids to learn things they can do with their hands.
All right.
Instead of this focus on the degree, focus on 4 years of information, why not a focus on 4 years of things you can do?
Of instilling
with
skill.
your own hand. So that's what you're going to be employed for.
Thank you,
I
Jose.
hope that makes sense.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Asante.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Good day. Ali.
Good morning,
Good
gentlemen
morning.
and a lady. Well, from the talk that I've been listening from morning, early, always, that is my favorite channel, SpiceFM. It seems as we are lacking the curriculum building into issues of CBC or any type of education that we introduce. I will give you a very simple example. We have a degree in finance in university when you are undergraduate doing finance. You cannot perform finance until you go and do CPA. Does it mean this other teaching career is having the same problem? Are we really ready for CBC or any other new curriculum that we are having? Have we prepared the components of that curriculum properly for people to impact on what they are doing, like the previous scholar before me? That is my question. I feel we do not have the curriculum to teach those teachers who are going to give that information to our children. That is my concern. Thank you.
It's a good one. Thank you very much, Ali. It's a valid concern. It feels that the teachers are not being prepared to actually teach the CBC students.